All right, welcome back to another Deep Dive Explainer. Today we're tackling the literal beating heart of modern computing. We're going to look at this relentless, super high-stakes engineering war that's raging right inside your PC case. We're tracking the evolution of system memory, from the good old days of DDR3 all the way to the absolute bleeding edge of the DDR6 horizon. But first, let me pose a quick question to you. Why is your ultra-fast, crazy expensive multi-core CPU still spending so much of its time just waiting around? Well, the reality is, modern 16 to 64 core processors, and definitely these massive AI workloads we're seeing, they're absolutely starving for data. We built these incredibly powerful computational engines, but we're seriously struggling to feed them fast enough. And that creates a massive, massive computing bottleneck. So here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, the ultimate computing bottleneck. 2, generations of memory evolution. 3, decoding the technical jargon. 4, real-world performance impacts. And finally, 5, the DDR6 future horizon. All right, section 1, the ultimate computing bottleneck. Okay, so we call this the von Neumann bottleneck. Over the past few years, CPU architectures have rapidly scaled from quad cores up to these absolute behemoths, 16, 64, and even 128 core designs. And at the exact same time, local AI inferencing is demanding gigabytes of data ingestion every single second. But here's the catch. The memory bandwidth, the actual pipeline delivering that data from storage over to the CPU's execution caches, it just hasn't scaled at the same pace. It has officially become the ultimate choke point in modern computing architecture. Moving right along to section 2, generations of memory evolution. The whole trajectory from DDR3 to our projected DDR6 is honestly just a masterclass in electrical engineering. Let's start way back in 2007 with DDR3. That ran at 1.5 volts with a max official speed of 2133 megatransfers per second. Then, fast forward to 2014, DDR4 drops the voltage down to 1.2 volts while bumping up the base speeds. By 2020, DDR5 hits the scene, dropping that voltage yet again to 1.1 volts, but pushing speeds way past 8,800 megatransfers per second. Oh, and it doubled the internal bank structure to 32 banks. So the underlying pursuit here is pretty constant. Engineers are trying to exponentially increase data transfer rates while actively lowering the operating voltage. It's a tough balancing act. And to pull that off, DDR5 had to fundamentally restructure the physical memory stick itself. Think about it. In legacy DDR3 and DDR4, a single memory module had one 64-bit data channel. That was it. But DDR5 actually splits that module into two completely independent 32-bit subchannels. It's kind of wild. It acts almost like having dual-channel memory on just a single stick. This means your CPU's memory controller can execute two concurrent, totally independent memory operations on one single module. It vastly reduces idle time and just skyrockets overall efficiency. But as you might guess, all this speed requires much cleaner power. Enter the PMIC, or Power Management IC. Back in the day, your motherboard handled stepping down the power for your RAM, but DDR5 puts a dedicated power regulation chip directly on the memory module itself. It literally takes 5 volts straight from the motherboard and locally drops it to 1.1 volts, right there on the stick. Now, this is absolutely amazing for overclocking stability, but it creates a literal thermal wall because pushing this PMIC shifts the heat generation directly onto the RAM itself. If that chip crosses 85 degrees Celsius, the memory is forced to double its refresh rate, which completely halts data transfers and degrades performance. So yeah, that is exactly why you're seeing those massive, beefy active cooling solutions on modern RAM kits. Let's pivot to section 3, decoding the technical jargon. First up, we really need to talk about how we measure speed. You'll very often see RAM advertised in megahertz, but actually that's technically incorrect. The true metric is MT/S, or megatransfers per second. See, because this is double data rate memory, DDR. It transfers data twice per clock cycle, once on the rising edge of the electrical signal and once on the falling edge. So if the physical clock frequency is, say, 2400 megahertz, it's actually transferring data at 4800 megatransfers per second. Basically, when you see those massive numbers on the box, they are megatransfers, definitely not megahertz.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates what I like to call the latency paradox. CAS latency, which is that CL number you see stamped on RAM, measures the clock cycles it takes for the RAM to output data. Now, a lot of people see an older DDR4 kit with a latency of CL16, and then they look at a shiny new DDR5 kit with a latency of CL30, and they just automatically assume DDR5 is slower. But by applying the absolute latency formula, we see it's actually a function of both that CL timing and the data rate. So despite the visually higher CL numbers, DDR5's massive clock speeds mean its absolute latency of 10 nanoseconds is fundamentally identical to high-end DDR4. It reacts exactly as fast, but it's delivering double the bandwidth.
Now, pushing those massive clock speeds over standard copper motherboard traces, that's incredibly difficult. Once you go past 4,800 megatransfers per second, the electrical signals suffer from extreme degradation and crosstalk. It is a chaotic electrical environment in there. So to fix this, DDR5 implements something called Decision Feedback Equalization, or DFE. Think of it as advanced digital signal processing that effectively filters out the high-frequency noise. It essentially opens up what engineers call the data eye, so the receiver can accurately distinguish between a 1 and a 0, even when the physical electrical waveform arrives looking completely distorted.
All right, Section 4, Real-World Performance Impacts.
500%. Seriously. Let that number sink in for a second. That is exactly how much the price of a standard 32GB DDR5 kit spiked in just 6 months during the 2025 to 2026 AI server memory crisis. The price went from roughly $2,500 all the way to over 13,800 new Taiwan dollars. And why? Well, because the explosion of generative AI required massive server farms, and fabricators diverted all of their manufacturing capacity to those high-margin enterprise AI chips. They literally starved the consumer market just to feed the enterprise beast. But hey, when you do actually get your hands on this bandwidth, the deployment scenarios are a real game changer. Take esports, for example. If you're pushing hundreds of frames per second, upgrading to DDR5 gives a massive 15 to 20% improvement in 1% low frame rates. That's all thanks to that 32 bank structure, preventing the CPU from stalling while streaming in new assets. Or look at 8K video editing. Jumping from 25 to over 51 gigabytes per second of bandwidth completely eliminates playback stutter in complex red raw timelines. And funny enough, because of those rising costs we just talked about, the industry actually had to create HUDIMMs. These are budget OEM sticks that only amped with one single subchannel to cut manufacturing costs. But of course, the trade-off is that they literally have your bandwidth.
Which brings us to Section 5, the DDR6 Future Horizon.
So DDR6 isn't just going to be a simple speed bump. It actually features a radical subchannel redesign. Remember how we said DDR5 split the stick into 2 channels? Well, DDR6 targets a super granular 4 by 24-bit architecture. That means a single stick of RAM will be able to address 4 completely distinct memory locations all at the exact same time. This hyper-segmented architecture isn't just some nice-to-have luxury, it is a strict, hard requirement for the heavily parallel, multi-threaded workloads we're going to see in the impending AI era. And to achieve its absolutely staggering goal of 17,600 megatransfers per second, DDR6 basically has to change how it speaks over the wire. Legacy memory uses NRZ signaling. That's transmitting 1 bit, either a 0 or a 1, per clock cycle phase. But DDR6 is projected to adopt PAM4 signaling. By using 4 distinct voltage levels, it can actually transmit 2 bits per cycle phase. It's the exact same cutting-edge technology found in PCIe 6.0, and it's what's going to allow for massive data throughput over standard copper without fatal interference. So where does that leave us? Hardware engineering is clearly achieving miraculous things with DDR6. But as software complexity and AI demands continue to explode at this exponential rate, you really have to wonder, will this massive leap in bandwidth finally quench the thirst of our modern CPUs? Or is it just the fundamental nature of computing that the beast will always, inevitably, want more? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive explainer, and keep your eyes on the horizon.